What's good, everybody? This is the Sports Fanatic. I just had a great discussion with my good friend LB about the upcoming Eagles versus Commanders game, our NFL fandom, and more. So stay tuned for that, and don't make sure to like the video and share it. Peace. I'm out. Love y'all.
All right, bro. So recently, we just had our game. Week 2 just ended, and we're going into the week 3 now against the Eagles, and probably what to me is a really important game for both teams. I think that the Eagles have really established themselves as, high level NFC contenders for the season, and probably the team to beat in this division. And I was hoping that the Commanders would be able to set a tone early and go into this game with the same record that you guys are going into at 2-0. Unfortunately, that didn't happen on Sunday. We played the Lions, the team that you guys beat week 1, and we weren't able to get it done. We came out flat, and we got into a big hole early. Halftime, it's already 22-0, and we weren't making any adjustments during the game. So early in the game, we looked, flustered. It looked like we really weren't ready to play. And that stadium was packed. It was loud, just like how you guys experienced it too. They sold out week 1, and you guys were able to go in there and get the job done, and we weren't able to. We didn't match their energy. And I say all that we came out flat and stuff, but we ended up getting a 3-and-out in the first drive of the game. But afterwards, our offense couldn't get going, and it seemed like we weren't able to just function offensively at all in the first half. The defense tried to keep us in it in the first half of the game. It started getting away from them. I mean, we really put them in bad spots. And we ended up coming out halftime, revamped, and we had 15 unanswered points. It was 20. We were down a touchdown, and we just couldn't get the stop defensively to get us back in the game. Every time we would score after those 15 points, they would score. Every time we score again, they would score. So it ended up being a back and forth, and we just couldn't get that stop. And then it ended up being anticlimactic at the end. We missed the extra point, and then it's a 9-point game. We didn't even have a shot. So I just think that we came out flat, too big of a hole early, and we go into the second half too little too late, and we just didn't get the job done.
Yeah, definitely coming out flat. Detroit this year, man. They got the number 2 pick, Aiden Hutchinson, hometown kid. They got Jared Goff, still a quarterback. They got a plethora of weapons on the offense, like Swift, Jamal Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's going to be a top 10 receiver at some point in his career. TJ Hawkins, who's already a top 5 to 7 tight end. The O-line, anchored by Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. Like, they got a team. They got a squad, especially in offense. So, in that crowd, like you said, that crowd is, they think this is going to be their year. So, you can't come out flat against a team like that. And I feel like the difference is, I feel like I'm looking at y'all's stats, the running stats. You only had 88 yards, 4.2 yards a carry. I feel like with us, we were able to establish a running game early in that game, and get some big plays to our playmakers early. I feel like y'all didn't start doing that until kind of later, and so
yeah, I 100% agree with that. I agree with what you said, and I just think though that even that 4.2 is misleading. You're 100% correct. We did not establish a run game. In reality, we had 2 runs that really inflated our values in terms of the yards. Our starting running back only got 28 yards on 14 carries, so he was 2 a pop. We had essentially no running game, and that really, really was rough for us to even get anything going on the ground. We couldn't establish play action, so I 100% agree with you on that.
And I think Aiden Hutchinson, he didn't really register in our game. He got like a tackle, but I feel like letting him control the game and get 3 sacks in the first half, that couldn't have happened. At home, that couldn't have happened. So I feel like that's really where y'all went wrong. Y'all got some good receiving. Y'all receivers did good. Samuel had 7 catches for 78 yards. Terry had 4 catches for 75 yards. Jahan had 4 for 59. JD 7 for 54. So y'all had good receiving numbers. Of course, them 337 yards passing. So the passing game was there. Just that running game cannot get going. I feel like, well, what are you looking forward to towards the next game? I mean, towards this game upcoming. Between us, this Sunday. Like, what do you kind of? Well, first, I'm gonna talk about our game for a little bit. Against the Vikings.
Go ahead.
Real quick. Obviously, we won 24-7. Um, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like coming into this game, I was really, I was scared about Justin Jefferson. Like he really scared me. I really thought he was gonna come in and do what he's been doing the past 2 years. And even though we have Bradbury and Jerry Slay, big play Slay, on the outsides, I just didn't have much trust in him, honestly, against a guy like Justin because he's so versatile. He's so shifty, so slippery. Like he can get going so quick. And also Dalvin Cook, that running game is when they get going, that's elite. And also Adam Thielen, when he gets going, it's like they have weapons. And so I feel like the biggest thing for us in this game was, first of all, taking the ball, start the game, and going down the field and scoring a touchdown. We got our guys involved. We got Smitty involved, AJ Brown, Dallas Goddard involved. Miles Sanders had a great game, so we got those guys involved early on. I felt like going down there and scoring a touchdown to open up, the game was really big for us. And obviously when they got the ball, it was a 3 and out. That third down play, I don't know if you saw it, but it was a pass breakup from Darius Slay and Justin Jefferson. Held him a little bit, not gonna lie. You guys saying,
Yeah,
but it was still a
and he
good
was
play.
he was looking for it. He was looking for the flag
But and that obviously Justin's a
that
big.
left on.
Yeah, he got it. I was at first. I'm like, okay, no, that was he didn't hold him. But when I saw the replay, I'm like, okay, they kind of missed one there. But that was a huge play because that was the matchup they were talking about coming in, was Darius Slay versus Jettis, and so I feel like him winning that third down was huge. And then us getting the ball, I think let me see. I think we didn't score again in that first quarter, but we scored 17 in the second quarter, and that's really where things took off. So we started the second quarter off. It was a 60-some yard bomb from Jalen to Quez, and that really put us on. That really stamped us right then and there. So I feel like coming out and scoring that first touchdown, and then keeping Justin in check, and keeping Dalvin in check, and keeping that crowd involved really helped us out. And also we had 11 pass breakups. Like our secondary was active. Like Slade was active. Um, Bradbury was active. TJ Edwards, our linebacker, was active. Everybody was active. Slade had 2 picks, obviously. So this was really the game for us, and I feel like this really solidified us, as a team to worry about in the NFC. And obviously, people are going to say, "Oh, you beat the Lions the first week. It's the Lions." And then against the Vikings, it's like, "Oh, the Vikings are the same team that just slapped the Packers last week." So, but then obviously, since we're the Eagles, people are going to say, "Oh, it's the Vikings. It's not a big." They're going to downplay us every step of the way, especially since we have the second easiest schedule in the league this year. So, I'm ready for it. I'm not really surprised. But this was a huge
Yeah,
win for us, a huge win, and I was really worried about. I thought we were going to win, but I thought it was going to be a tough one. I thought Minnesota was going to go crazy on offense. I thought it was going to be a shootout.
yeah.
Um,
Minnesota is one of those teams that they have a new head coach, and they're a team that should be dynamic offensively. Kevin O'Connell's one of those Sean McVay guys, one of those young offensive minds, and there's a lot of hype around that offense. They have probably one of the best receivers in the league, one of the best running backs in the league if he can stay healthy. All they need is Kirk Cousins to distribute the ball, and I think that's one of the problems that they're facing, is that those two guys are the only viable options that they have. And you saw that in the game. There was double coverage and lockdown Justin Jefferson, and then no one else stepped up. Irv Smith had the touchdown, but aside from that, the rest of the offense was quiet. Adam Thielen had some garbage time targets, and he was
yeah,
not involved. So it's one of those things where when you have the secondary that the Eagles have, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, you need to have multiple weapons to attack that secondary. You're not going to be able to just use one guy. You're going to need to get a lot of people involved. And that's, I think, or I guess we could go straight into it, is probably one of the strengths that I feel like we have offensively. I think the problems we're running into are defensively. Like I said in last week's game, we could not get the stop we needed. and the Lions ended up putting up a lot of points on us, 36 points. And I think the Lions are really an underrated offense. Like you were saying, people are going to underplay just who you played, but that's a well coached team.
Just
They're
on
going to be
paper, like that's a dangerous offense. On paper alone,
Mhm.
that's a dangerous
Yeah,
offense.
and you can say what you want about Jared Goff, but you have time in the pocket. If he has time in the pocket, he's going to distribute some quality targets, and he's going to get the ball where it needs to be, especially if he has time. And that offensive line held up, even though in our game they were missing their three interior offensive linemen, guards and center. So when the game started, it really looked like we were the team that was out three starters and not them. We weren't generating any pressure. We ended up losing our fourth string defensive tackle, who's now our third string because our third stringer got injured for the season last week. So we were really thin defensively, but I still expect that defensive line to get home, and they couldn't get it done. So going into this game, I feel like it's going to be a high scoring game. Defensively, we're not stout defensively. I think the days of Washington potentially being a top 10 defense 2 years ago, after that amazing 2020 defensive season where they essentially were winning games for us by themselves. We couldn't score. We couldn't outscore anybody. We had half leg Alex Smith. We had no stability at the quarterback position, and we were scoring like 14 points a game. And you can't win in the league like that. So our defense is not at that level anymore, and that may have just been a flash in the pan. And that defense is not even near a top half defense this year, especially. There's weaknesses in our personnel, and that's probably going to be one of the hardest things that we're going to have to face. Facing Jalen Hurts, his versatility and his ability to run is just really going to cause us some problems. And I can see it now. Jalen Hurts, we got pressure on him and he just rolls out and then breaks us up for a 15-yard gain at least 2 or 3 times. So it's going to be really difficult to stop, especially because the defense is our weakness for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like like I think I texted you this. One of the key matchups I'm looking at is y'all D line versus our O line. I feel like if y'all can, um, I feel like stopping the running game for obviously teams coming in, they want to stop the running game, make you pass so you can get after the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like with the players that y'all got, I feel like if y'all are able to stop the running game early on and force Jalen to really to beat y'all with his arm, I'm not saying that he can't, but it's definitely like having that running game definitely helps. And I feel like we're the best running attack in the league. So I feel like when that's going, at least even a little bit, it opens up everything else. And when you add a guy like AJ Brown on the outside, like in that passing game, maybe it becomes that much more dangerous. So I feel like for y'all stopping that running game is crucial. And um, that Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat. I don't know. I don't think Chase is playing. Is he still? I think he's still out.
Yeah, so Chase is going to be out into probably I'm guessing like week 8. He's probably going to make his
Oh
comeback
yeah.
just because he's on the pub. I think it's on IR right now, so he has to miss 4 weeks at least. But the way they're saying maybe week 6, 7, but I'd probably say week 8.
Yeah, but I feel like that D line is going to have to be big for y'all getting after Jalen, making him uncomfortable. I feel like looking at your offense versus our defense, y'all do have some weapons. Obviously, Scary Terry on the outside, Curtis Samuel. Gibson, he hasn't had the greatest start to the season, but I feel like when he gets going, he's definitely someone to be reckoned with. J.D. McKissick, who's a little Swiss Army knife. He's tough to game plan for. Y'all do have the weapons. I feel like seeing from what I feel like Darius really opened my eyes. Like he was voted captain for the first time in his career this year. Second week of the season, after a big win on the road against the Lions, you got to face up against the best young receiver in the NFL, top 3 receiver in the NFL in Jettis. And to do what he did, I have all the confidence in the world in Darius to take Terry over the field wherever he goes, because Terry is versatile. Terry, he'll line up in the X, he'll line up at the Y, he'll line up in the slot. Hey, I feel like I've probably even seen him in the backfield a couple of times. So it's like,
Yeah. So last week, you're right. He did have a carry last week, and we're really versatile, like you said. We had Terry, who's not even like a really fast guy, shifty guy, on jet sweeps, So I do see what you're saying that there is some versatility, and that matchup is going to be one to watch.
Yeah, like I feel like Darius, like I said, I have all the, and I think the difference between like what we did last week is, first of all, we played man coverage. We didn't just sit back at the sticks every time and let them nick and dunk underneath of us. We played man coverage. We got up into them, and we disrupted Jefferson, Thielen, and KJ Osborne. We made life hard for them. Irv Smith, all of them. And I feel like with y'all, I feel like we can do the same thing. I feel like, you know, um, I feel like if we can play that man coverage, make Carson hold the ball a little bit, which we know he holds the ball a lot. He loves to hold the ball, and we can kind of get at him early. I feel like y'all could be in some trouble, and I feel like I said, a key part of that is Darius Slay. I feel like taking Terry all over the field because if you can do it against Justin Jefferson, you can do it against damn near anybody in this league. So that's
Yeah.
why he really opened my eyes last week. So it's like that's a key matchup, and also um, I'm kind of interested to seeing how if y'all's running game can get going because obviously Dalvin Cook and them they didn't do anything on past Monday, but DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, they had some big chunks against us, and I feel like Antonio Gibson, I feel like he usually plays decent against us. So I feel like if y'all can get that running game going early, I feel like that can definitely keep us on our heels. I feel like to counter that, I feel like we need to play a lot of Jordan Davis. He played 30% of our snaps on Monday. He's a nose tackle from Georgia, for those who don't know. But I feel like playing him, Hargrave, and Fletcher Cox, those three big guys inside, I feel like that really it clogs up any running lane, for any offense. Like you put those three guys up in there, put Josh Sweat on one side, Brandon Graham, whoever's on the edge. You put those three in the middle, you're not getting nowhere, and that's what happened with Dalvin Cook and company on Monday. So I feel like playing Jordan Davis a lot should be a key part of this game. Play him, shut the running game down. Force the Commanders into third downs. All these passing situations. Make Carson uncomfortable, and that's a good recipe. It sounds easy, but it's not going to be that easy because I know you think that we're just going to come in there and do whatever you really want to do, but I'm telling you, coming to Washington, those divisional road games this early in the season, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be a cakewalk. So.
Yeah,
Really
I 100% agree with you that these division games, I think people underestimate that when you play a division, you guys play each other twice a year. No one knows you better than those teams in your division, and they essentially plan their entire offseason based on what you guys are going to do. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things that we did during this offseason to prepare for this Eagles team. We know that you guys got AJ Brown, right? And he's probably one of the most physical receivers, and they put him everywhere, outside, inside. And all off season, we put our third round rookie last season in the slot this year. He was a boundary guy last year, and they're experimenting with him playing in the slot. So I expect him to be following AJ Brown a lot. And
Who is
because
that?
he can match his Benjamin St. Juice. Last season, towards the end of the year, he had like 2 concussions. So, but he's been healthy this year, and he's been playing super solid. This is going to be his big matchup, though. We played Jacksonville and Detroit. We're really going to see what he can do when he goes against a potentially top 10 receiver in AJ Brown, and that's one of the things that I'm struggling with is defensively. I know that offensively, you guys are going to be able to put up points, but I feel like we're able to match that as well, being able to put up points. And I haven't been able to say that in a long time. We have always been a team, essentially the last 5 years since Kirk Cousins left, that we can't score more than 20 points a game. A lot of our games are 17-point wins. We have 14 points, 21 points. We're scraping by, barely able to score 20-plus points. And now we're able to, put some points up. Carson Wentz is throwing the ball way too much, in my opinion. And that running game is going to be really important to establish, like you said. Last week, Carson Wentz threw 41 times. This week, he threw the ball, I think, 46 times. And me and you both know that is not a winning formula. You need to be able to support Carson Wentz with the running game, and we just haven't been able to do that. I got some lawn people coming to cut the grass, but it's whatever.
I'm looking at the roster real quick, and you have William Jackson III and Kendall Fuller on the outsides. I feel like if anybody's going to be taking AJ, I think Williams more your speed DB.
Williams is more of a man-to-man guy,
Man,
and
okay.
Kendall Fuller's more of that. He can do all. He can play slot, safety, and outside, but he's been playing outside primarily. Benjamin St. Juice was the outside guy, and this whole offseason they've been having him in the slot, and when we go to the nickel. So I think he's going to be matched up with him because our boundary corners, William Jackson III and Kenneth Fuller, they do not follow number ones. So all of our receivers are just whoever gets lined up in their slot is going to be there. So but
Because
there's a
our outside guy
possibility
is
that
Quest Watkins, so I think he's going to be seeing a lot of Quest Watkins and AJ Brown because every our guys
yeah,
do line up everywhere. But I feel like if I know you say they don't follow, but if there was a guy that I would pick to follow, it would probably be William Jackson. He's the biggest. He's 6 foot 189. He's fast. He's physical. I think he's got
yeah,
long arms. So if there was a guy to follow AJ, it would be him. But I feel like they might just stay in their base. They might just keep the guys on the outside, keep St. Juice in the slot, and whenever he does match up against AJ in the slot, whether it be on third downs, critical third downs, looking for a mismatch, like you said, he's going to have to step up and
yeah,
lock AJ
yeah.
up.
And
Which is tough
so
to do.
we're primarily a nickel team. We don't
Mm.
really play our base 4-3 at all. We did last season, but now we're like 85 to 90% in the nickel at all times. We always either have three safeties or three corners on the field, pretty much at all times. But with Jalen Hurts, ability to run, and you guys, have a dynamic running game. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott in the game. The list goes on and on of who can run the ball. We're probably going to play 5 defensive linemen a lot of the game. The only problem with that is like I said, from our first 2 starters, Jonathan and Deron Payne, we have no depth behind them. So I don't know who necessarily is going to play in that third defensive tackle role this week. And, that's going to be one of the problems is that we're kind of banged up. We are, like I said, missing the D tackles, and we're also missing our starting center. And you just mentioned Jordan Davis is going to be playing. You expect him to be on the field a lot. He's probably going to be going up against a third string, fourth string center. We just signed this guy, Nick Martin from the Texans. He was, just free agent. We signed him, and he's going to be our number 2 center. And like I said, we don't know really what the plan is as of right now because practices are just going on this week, right? But it's going to be tough. We're not going to be able to match personnel-wise just because we're lacking depth. But in terms of your secondary versus our receiver core, you mentioned, Darius Slay on Terry. That's going to be a big, big matchup. Terry is very familiar with, your corners. Darius Slay's played him already 4 times, I think, in the 4 games they played. And then he's played James Bradbury all those times when he was in New York. So he's a guy that knows what he's going against. And also, Curtis Samuel was going up against James Bradbury when they were in Carolina. So I think that the Vikings had troubles because they couldn't get anyone else open, but I don't think that's the problem we're going to run into. I think that we're going to be able to spread the ball around to our 3 wide receivers. And although Antonio Gibson and our running backs have not been effective on the ground, when they're, out in space catching balls out of the backfield, we're getting really creative. Like they're running routes out of the backfield. Both of them are lining up. We're having a Curtis Samuel line up in the backfield. We're really mixing it up. We're going to be able to distribute the ball. It's just we just don't have that running game, and I think that's where the Eagles' defense is the most vulnerable. Their secondary is really good. They have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, then Darius Slade, James Bradbury. Their secondary is locked down, so we're really going to have to be able to mix it up and get these balls to these receivers quickly, just so that they can try to exploit any weaknesses because we're not going to be able to run the ball. I can just say that now. Without Brian Robinson, we're not going to be able to establish a running game. Antonio Gibson is just not that good at making decisive cuts and hitting the hole. He dances too much in the backfield, and he doesn't keep us on pace when we're running the ball. So we're always facing second and long, third and long, just because we can't establish that running game.
I would look for Carson to loosen up the defense. I would feel like using Carson and his legs early could be a little wrinkle because Carson can run, but I mean, do people really think of Carson as a running quarterback? No. So like, I feel like that could be something that really can throw us off. I feel like Carson's legs could be definitely X factor in this game. Um, And like you said, the familiarity on the perimeter between our DBs and y'all receivers is definitely something to look at. And I forgot that I remember James was in Carolina, but I forgot he was there with Curtis as well. So
Mhm.
that matchup is definitely something big to look forward to. What is a
Mhm.
matchup that you think that there's that could be critical that people aren't really talking about? That aren't people aren't talking about as much. Like what is like a
Oh,
X Factor matchup?
I think one of the X Factor matchups, we're going to be getting back our starting safety hopefully this week. So Cameron Crowe, right? He's was a seventh round pick a couple years ago, but really broke onto the scene in 2020 and has been a diamond in the rough. He's been really good for us, and he hasn't been like a top 10 safety, but for a seventh round pick, he's been serviceable and he's been really able to make some big plays for us. He broke his thumb in the preseason and missed our first two games of the year. He should be coming back. And since we play so much nickel, and he's one of those guys who plays that nickel position, he goes in, plays the slide, he goes up over the top. He's going to be matched up a lot with Dallas Goedert and your running backs. And we've been having some problems because in the secondary, we're not having people hustle the ball. And Cameron Crowe's one of those guys who is going to go and make a tackle. He's going to go and try to make a play. And him coming back, hopefully he's going to be able to support us in the running game because I don't know if you saw last week, DeAndre Swift did exactly what he did to you guys to us, and he did that on like 10 carries. There was a play, catches the ball out of the backfield, falls down to the ground, has time to get up, run the ball again, and made four guys miss and scored. And it's like no one was tackling with urgency, and I'm hoping that Cameron Crowe can come in and fix that. And that's really going to help us stop the big plays because you guys are really dynamic with all those weapons you guys have, and Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders. I think that he's going to be a X factor when he can come back. But only problem is he'll probably play with a club on, so he won't be able to make any interceptions. But he'll be able to at least swat some balls and make some tackles.
I feel like Cameron Crowe's definitely a baller. I remember watching him, and seeing how he covers, seeing how he hits. He's really definitely the energy guy for you guys back there. I'm gonna stay on the same type of wave, but I'm gonna take it a level below to the linebackers. Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis for you guys versus Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and then basically our running game. I feel like Cole and Jamin are two underrated guys, two underratedly mobile linebackers. I feel like if y'all can force Jalen out of the pocket, and if you can have Jamin or Cole Holcomb kind of be there to kind of match him, not exactly spy, but just kind of be in the area to make him hesitant about running. I feel like that can really slow some of our things up. Because those guys are, I feel like they can free flow pretty well. I think Cole Holcomb is a captain, so he's obviously, an experienced guy. He's a leader on that team. I feel like looking to them for defensive leadership early on, and kind of helping control our running game somewhat, and controlling Jalen Hurts. I feel like that's something that really needs to be looked at, and people aren't
Yeah,
talking about it as much.
yeah.
Um,
All eyes are going to be on Jamin Davis this week. Last week after the Jacksonville game, the coaching staff called out Jamin Davis saying that he needed to play better, and there was a lot of missed opportunities that Jacksonville couldn't take advantage of because Jamin Davis made some mistakes in coverage. So this week the game plan was for him not to really be covering anybody, and he played pretty well in my opinion. He got a sack in the first drive of the game, and he was like playing with his head on fire. The problem is that I don't know if you saw this, but he made headlines last night and earlier in the day yesterday because he called out the coaching staff again on social media. So he went ahead and I posted on social media this really like cryptic video that he had to take down that he deleted, and he essentially was saying that the coaching staff was ungrateful. And this is obviously my opinion, right? He could have been aiming the post towards the fans, towards media, but I feel like if he was doing that, he shouldn't have deleted it then. But I think he was calling out the coaching staff because they publicly, said Jamin Davis needs to play better in the press conferences, and he went out and played pretty well against the Lions. But then again, though, he made some mistakes as well. We ran a play where it was a double, both our linebackers blitzed, but Jamin Davis wasn't supposed to blitz, and then that was the play that DeAndre Swift was able to break free and they made 4 guys miss because Jamie Davis wasn't in coverage. Jamie Davis is the most athletic linebacker we have, and I do expect him to be really on that spy on Jalen Hurts, but all eyes are going to be on him because he called the coaching staff ungrateful, called them a lot of negative things, and the video is kind of creepy. You know, there's like dudes with like their they have like these like burlap sacks over them. They're like tied up, like they're about to get like executed, and he's saying that maybe that's how he feels with the coaching staff on him. I'm not really sure. If you had time, go look at it. You just search it up on Jamie Davis Instagram post. It's everywhere, and he says that all he hears is criticism, 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 and that the coaching staff is ungrateful. We're really seeing Jamie Davis has really become a loose lip kind of guy, and he really has been, how do you say, polarizing? Like he makes headlines too much, and that's not what you need. And that really wasn't his MO coming out of college when we drafted him. His background, he's a military guy. He grew up in a military family, moved a lot, and he is big on discipline and respect. But he's really been the opposite of that so far. And the problem that we're facing now is that maybe these players aren't taking to the coaching. So going into this Eagles game, it's going to be big, and the environment's going to be loud. Well, we talked about this yesterday, bro, that it's going to be packed with Eagles fans in this game. And if we wanted it to be more Commanders fans and Eagles fans, we needed to go out there and handle business against Detroit, and we didn't do that. So it's going to be a lot of Eagles fans, and I expect it to be loud in there. And all eyes are going to be on this defense specifically because our offense is able to put up points. We put up 28 points in 2 quarters against the Lions, and we were able to make it somewhat of a respectable game. But we just need to be able to do that over a span of 4 quarters. And if we start off slow, it may get out of hand quickly again, just like it did against Detroit.
And you talked about handling business. Handling business. I feel like that all starts with number 11, quarterback Carson Wentz. Obviously, Carson Wentz was our quarterback for 5-6 years. He's an MVP candidate in the second year. Obviously, it was that year we went to the Super Bowl, we won. He got hurt in that Rams game. That still haunts me to this day. It's still like a big what if. Like, what if Carson never got hurt? What if Carson was still in Philly, playing at an MVP level? You know what I'm saying? That's always something I think about from time to time. But, it starts with him. I feel like if Carson comes out and he is decisive, he knows what he's looking at on the defense. He's using his legs. He's converting on third downs to getting the ball to the playmakers. I feel like y'all be in great shape. I feel like it really starts with him, and I feel like his tone and his attitude, his mindset is going to go a long way in determining how y'all do. That being said, I feel like he does play a good game, but I feel like at some point, like the running game, I feel like our running game, Jalen Hurts takes over. Converts a couple key third downs, keeps that crowd at bay. I feel like we make enough plays to win this game. And I'm gonna go ahead and get my score now. I think this game is gonna be. I'm thinking like 30-23.
Okay, I think that's a good ballpark. I think one team has to score 30. Your offense is able to put up points. We saw that last night. On Monday. Our offense is able to put up points too. Our defense can't stop a nosebleed. You guys were able to shut down the Vikings. One of those is going to give, you know what I mean? One of those things is going to give. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a shootout. Like I said, our defense hasn't shown much at all. I say that though, but when you look at the numbers, our defense has been that bad. Our defense is allowing like 50% on third downs. Last week it was like 30% on third down defense, and I just think that we aren't playing, like the numbers aren't really adding up to what's on the field. And I think it may be one of those things that this week it might be able to correct itself, but I do expect the game to be high scoring. I'll probably say, so you're going, obviously you're going with the Eagles. I'm going to take my Commanders on this one. it's a game that I said that we were going to win in the beginning of the season. I'm going to stick with it now. I essentially guarantee to win this week, week 3, just because I feel like we know what's at stake now. And if we can't beat the Eagles at home, it's going to be 10 times worse when we go to Philly week 10. So I think it's one of these games that you have to have. Last week, Detroit needed that game. They were two straight games at home. They needed that game. We wanted that game, so we didn't come out with the energy. This game, we need it. And if we don't come out with a sense of urgency, it can get out of hand quickly. I'm still going to go with my guys, and I'm going to say that we're going to win the game 35-31 by 4 points, and it's going to be high scoring. I don't want to be surprised Jalen Hurts has a big day on the ground. But I just feel like when it matters most, we're going to show up. And we just haven't shown up through 4 quarters of football. The offense shows up the first quarter. The defense doesn't show up the second quarter. It's not really complimentary football. And I expect that to hopefully turn around this week, because this is a game that we really need.
Definitely. And, I feel like, obviously these division games are always, like they're never easy. They're never, cakewalks, so I feel like it's definitely going to be a hard fought, physical game. And it's something that I'm really looking forward to. So taking it around so that we have our score prediction for this game, but how about let's talk about maybe another game this week, that we think. I mean, you can look these up if you want to, but another game that it's kind of we have our eye on, our games that we have our eye on this week.
So I can just hop right in. So this week, Dallas plays New York, and right now the Giants are 2-0. They took care of business against the Titans, and they just beat the Panthers. I think that the Giants were always that wild card team. They were able to scrape out 2 wins, but they got a new coaching staff in. You never know really what to expect when you get a new coaching staff. And they were able to pull out 2 wins. If they're able to, scrape out another win against, Dallas, we might be saying, look at the Giants. The Giants are 3-0. Like, who's to say that they can't put their name in the hat for teams to come out of this division? I essentially wrote them off completely because I don't trust Daniel Jones. I don't trust their front office. And
Taquan's health.
Yeah, it's too early to tell what really they're going to be. But through 2 weeks, they've been able to come out on top each week. Something that we weren't able to do and something that Dallas wasn't able to do. So I look at the Giants as a wild card situation. But then again, though, if you look at the opposite of that, and let's say the Giants lose, we're just going to say, okay, that's what we expect the Giants to do, right? The Giants are going to win some games, they're going to lose some games, but they're going to lose more than they win, right? That's what we'll say. But if Dallas wins, I wouldn't be, we were talking about it a couple weeks ago, when the injury to Dak Prescott happened, I'm looking at this game like they're done. They're over. They're done. Their season's over. But they were able to go ahead and beat a Cincinnati team that went to Super Bowl last year. If they're able to, just stay afloat, even stay roughly 500 till Dak comes back, Dallas isn't so much out of it. So I think that no matter which team wins, there's going to be major impact to whatever goes on in this division. Whether the Giants win and they go to 3-0, or Dallas wins and they go to 2-1, we're going to be like, Dallas might not be out of it. Dallas might still have a shot, because we all know this is a week-to-week league, so things change every week.
The Cooper Rush-led Dallas Cowboys with Dak out. Yeah. I'm taking into the other conference. I'm taking down to South Beach. We got the Bills and Dolphins at 1 o'clock. Now, look, I don't know about y'all, but, I was one of those people that said that, when Tua got Tyreek Hill and when Tua got when Jalen Waddle obviously year 2, and they got Ricky Mostert, I'm like, okay, this is Tua's here to prove that he is the Dolphins guy, and so far he's done that. I think he leads the league in passing yards with 739, or he's top 3, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and Tyreek Hill 19 catches, 284 yards, 2 touchdowns, and we saw what they did just last week against Ravens defense, 42-38, I believe. That we look at Marlon Humphrey. They got Marcus Williams in the offseason. Marcus Peters. This is a team that defense has some guys in that back end, and what Tua was doing to them in Baltimore, it was scary. So you look at them playing in Miami against the Buffalo team that still does not have, in my opinion, a top six DB in Trey White. He's still out, I believe. They were able to obviously shut down the Titans. Cooper Kupp still had a hell of a game week one against them. He had 128 yards and then score. So you look at them against Tua and Waddle and Cedric Wilson.
Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek. Yeah, Tyreek. Yeah, and that's it can be scary for the Bills. And I feel like this is a game that's going to be another high scoring game, even though these defenses are elite. You look at Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Dawson Knox on one side, and you got obviously Hill, Waddle, Mostert, Tua on the other side. It's going to be a high scoring game. And that game, I believe, whoever wins this game, I believe will go on to win the AFC. That may be a hot take, maybe not, but I know it's only week 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big game that I'm definitely looking forward to. It's a 1 o'clock game, so I'm looking at the matchup predictor on ESPN. The Bills actually have a 60% chance of winning that game to 38% from Miami. So, and they're playing in Miami, so the guys are really confident in the Bills. I would be too. I picked Josh Allen as my preseason MVP. So I believe this is a big game for him to show up and show out against that elite defense. So this is a game I'm definitely looking at for sure. So that's a game that we're both looking at. Both looking forward to. Let's kind of like you said at the start. I feel like talking about where our love for our teams came from. I feel like that was a good idea. I feel like starting off
Yeah.
with, obviously, being a Commanders fan, going through some up and down times. You have RG3, playing the way he's playing. He gets hurt. Kirk Cousins all those years, winning the division a couple times. There's a lot of up and downs over the past decade or so for y'all Commanders fans. Tell me where your love for the Commanders
So
got started.
growing up in this area is pretty much the only team that I really watched growing up. My family never, not really into football like that, but I did have one family member who really was, and he kind of just showed me what football really was about. And I really started being a fan. We're both young fans, so I didn't get a chance to see the glory days of the 3 Super Bowls that we had. I wasn't even alive for that time, so it's been a lot of negative and a lot of down for my lifetime. But I'll be lying to you if I said that some of the highs we've had haven't been, some stuff that really made me a fan. The RG3 run was crazy. It just unfortunate what happened and how that situation developed. We don't need to go down that road. But just now, the feeling that I have and us potentially being able to turn the corner now with, Ron Rivera, and I know that the fan base right now is just up and down on him. The media is up and down on him. The outside perspective is up and down on him. I think that this season he's really going to be able to show the leaps and bounds of growth that we've had. I mean, we've been a team that's been perennial bottom feeders and one of the laughing stocks of the league for so long that I really think we're turning the corner now. Our roster and our coaching staff leads me to believe that we're going to be able to win double-digit games this year, even though we had a very disappointing showing against Detroit. There's always that one game in the season where you look back on it, right? Week 18, right? We're sitting here, talking about how all the dominoes fell. You look back at the schedule, there's always that one game. It's like, we shouldn't have lost that game. We shouldn't have lost to this team, right? And we can look at the end of the season and Detroit's going to be, a 7-win team, right? We did not have to be one of those seven wins. You know what I mean? If they win 8 games, we couldn't have been those 8 wins. We needed to be one of their losses. So I just think that we're really making a turn, though, especially the way our roster's constructed now. You look at what we've had for the past 5 seasons. It hasn't been much. We've had no weapons. We have nothing at the quarterback position. It's been rough, and although all that, I really do feel like our roster just 10 times better now than what it was before, and that now I really think we're going to be able to hopefully, bring a lot of these fans back because the name change. A lot of people don't like the name. I was really one of those guys that was like, look, the name is going to be whatever it's going to be, and not it's not going to be good with everybody. And a lot of fans are going to leave because it's not the team, it's not the Redskins anymore. To me, I just want to win football games. I care about the product on the field, not the logo on the side of the helmet. You know what I mean? So I've been a Commanders fan essentially my whole life, and I just hope that now we can start having some positive things going our way, and hopefully be able to compete for this division along with the Eagles, because the Eagles really do seem like the favorites to come out of this division now. Especially, I mean, let's say what it is. Jalen Hurts had a breakout game last week. I mean, against the Vikings. Probably one of the best performances of his career, and everything that was said about the Eagles in the offseason has been true so far. Jalen Hurts, he took jumps as a passer. The offense in general just looks way more dynamic when you add AJ Brown in there. So the Eagles are going to be, a tough team to beat. So we're just going to have to see how it goes this season and for years to go.
Yeah, man.
How about you, bro? How about you? Like, what made you really an Eagles fan? And what's it been like? You guys won the Super Bowl. How was that like?
So I'm gonna take it back, obviously to being a kid, growing up in Delaware, we're kind of close to Philly, kind of like whatever Philly has, whatever teams they got, whatever they got going on, that's kind of what we adopt because that's like our major city that's close to us. So growing up in Delaware, my dad was a huge Eagles fan since he was a kid too, and my mom, she when she married my dad, she already had a kind of a love for sports, but when she married him, saw how he was an Eagles fan, how passionate he was. I kind of, it kind of made her one too. So, basically, both my parents were Eagles fans, and I remember just growing up, watching, Mike Vick, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, it was like, early mid 2010s years. Michael Vick was my favorite player growing up. Just seeing, my hometown team, have a black quarterback, as fun as he was, as electric as he was. I remember having, putting on my big jersey on Sundays, going to the park, with my ball, running around, acting like I was Vic, just throwing it, scrambling, all that stuff. And I remember, watching Deshaun Jackson's punt return against the Giants, the Miracle at the Meadowlands. That was such an iconic memory for me. Like, oh my gosh, I thought it was like I was a kid, so I didn't know that it wasn't like on Christmas Eve, but I could have swore that game was on Christmas Eve when I was a kid. Like it was that iconic for me. Like it was crazy seeing Deshaun.
It was cold.
Back. I know, man. It was
definitely cold that day.
Yeah, definitely. It was like early mid-December. And I remember, seeing obviously Tom Coughlin get onto their punter about kicking to Deshaun. It was so fun. That's kind of how it got started for me. Obviously seeing Vic play. That's my guy still to this day. Deshaun Jackson, Shady, Brent Selly, all them boys. Turn Up, Trent Cole. I remember all those teams. Obviously with the Super Bowl, like you mentioned, I was a sophomore in high school, man. That was one of the best years of my life, man. To really, because all we heard, years prior to that was, oh, the Eagles, no Super Bowls. They're the only team in our division. Obviously y'all have 3. The Cowboys have about 5. The Giants have like 3. So we're the only team without one. And I feel like that year, with Carson leading us and our magical run through the playoffs, the game against the Vikings coming off their big win against the Saints, like everything was so perfect that year. And beating Tom Brady, beating Tom Brady, the guy that we really should have and could have beat back in '04 when we had T.O. That was really, beating him. And, I remember him getting the ball in that fourth quarter to win the game. And I think it was the first or second play. But basically the first couple of plays of that drive, Brandon Graham strip sacks him. It was like, this can't be real, because Tom Brady always takes these games over, and he always takes the team down, and they always win the game. But for us to stand up as Philly against the big bad Patriots, so to say, and get that stop, Brandon Graham doing what he did, it's so iconic. And I remember going to the parade a couple weeks later with my dad. That was being surrounded by all the Philly fans. Seeing the players come up to us. Talk to us for a little bit. Get off the buses. You know, um, it was such an iconic year, and it's something that I'll never forget. Being an Eagles fan. That's kind of really where it started for me.
There's nothing like winning a championship, bro. There's nothing
Nothing,
like it,
man.
bro.
Nothing at
And
all.
I hope one day, and I just feel like when as a fan, you've gone through it too, the ups and the downs, right? That downs when it's down, it's like, man, like what is going on, right? And it's devastating, right? You're just like so hurt. But then I just feel like it makes it so much more sweeter when you finally get over the hump and you finally, able to, host a party. And hopefully one day I'll be able to experience that. But the team's gonna need to show up every week for that to happen. So, it's amazing that you guys won the Super Bowl and you got to actually experience that because I can only imagine like how like because I'm telling you right now, if we just made the playoffs and won a playoff game, I'd be ecstatic. I would be on top of the world because we haven't won a playoff game since 2005. So I didn't even see that myself. So it's just like it's gonna happen eventually. And when it does, it's gonna be so sweet, bro.
Yeah, and before we wrap it up, I feel like people don't the people like the NFC East. People clown us a lot, for how bad we are. But when it comes to you know, like playing manning up when we need to, and playing big in games when we need to, like against Tom Brady, we've given him the most issues out of any conference, any division in the NFL. Like you look at all the divisions and all of the Super Bowl losses. Obviously you have one to us, you have two to the Giants. Um, um, y'all almost beat him in the playoffs like 2 years ago in Washington. That game was
Yep.
yeah, y'all could have won that game, and then y'all beat him the year after
Yep.
in,
Last season.
in DC. Yeah, last season you beat him again, and so like you look at the NFC East, like we give Tom a lot of issues, and people obviously he's great, he's the GOAT in my opinion, 7 rings, but we've given him the most issues out of any division in the league, and I feel like I take great pride in that personally. I take a
Yeah.
lot of
And
pride in
I'm
beating
just
that.
like that.
Yeah.
I have division pride. I want our division to be good because what that means is when we make the playoffs and we win the division, we didn't win the worst division in the league. We fought and we won against quality opponents, and our our division win is genuine. You know what I mean? You don't want to be the best of the worst like we were in 2020 when we won the division with 7 wins. Like, that's just no one wants that. You want to have competitive football, and I'm big on that. Division pride because why do you want to play in the AFC South? It's not entertaining. It's no, you know what
There's
I
no
mean?
history. There's
There's
no
no,
really
yeah,
big rivalries. It's not. It's nothing there.
yeah, and that's gonna be a big factor into why I say we like our division is gonna be competitive this season because we play that division. You know what I mean? We play the Texans, the Colts, the Titans. We play these teams that I'm not really expecting much out of, and we're going to be able to, hopefully become the division of power because where we used to be, when we used to look around the league, where the NFC East, you did not want to play them. But now it's really shifted. Dallas never gets it done in the playoffs. Washington barely makes the playoffs every 4 seasons, and then the Eagles were finally able to get the Super Bowl. But then the Giants haven't returned to glory since then. They haven't been good since in like 8 years. So the Giants have been horrible. That's what I'm saying. Like now, this might be the time where we can really start, stacking some wins for our division and really, be a prominent division again.
Yeah, man. And you know, real quick, this is it. Okay, this is my last thing before we wrap it up because I know this has been a great discussion. But I feel like you look at our all-time history, like obviously the Cowboys with their 5 rings, y'all with y'all's 3, and having those great teams of the past, like the Hogs with Art Monk, Joe Theismann, us, with Reggie White, um, Randall Cunningham, got teams, T.O., Donovan McNabb, the Westbrook teams, and the Giants with their great teams, Eli, Strahan,
Cruz.
yeah, it's OC, McCure, so many, oh, Cruz, yeah, Cruz, yeah, Victor Cruz, so many great players that come to our uh,
Division.
division, and it's not talked about enough. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're
One
one of the
hundred
most,
percent.
we're one of the most storied and accomplished divisions, in football with players, championships, coaches, you name it. We've had it. Andy Reid, Bill Parcells, Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson. It's so many
Johnson. Yep.
so much history in our division that's not talked about. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just my little spiel. I think this is a great. We went on for an hour, about just about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a great discussion. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
I feel like this week, made the best team win, made the
Mm-hmm.
best coach win. Made the best team make the best plays. I feel like obviously I would say good luck, but I want my team to win.
Yeah.